Right, so good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the NIBOSH National General Certificate April cycle. Of course, we started off just about 3 weeks ago. Orientation would have gone. The orientation video is on YouTube, by the way. I just saw it. We would have looked at some definitions, health, safety, welfare. That slide is still up here. And then we would have looked at the moral and the legal reasons for managing health and safety, right? Well, sorry, moral, financial, and legal. However, we did not finish legal. So today's class is to finish the legal reasons for managing health and safety, and also to sort of extend the lower bit. You see what I'm talking about, right? We have to extend. There's something else in the law in the UK. We don't have it too much in Trinidad or in Guyana, but there's an extension of the law in the UK, right? And I'll show you what I mean by that just now. So just before we start, just some simple questions here. Remember, I had said we did a summary of the act, and it's to the back of the PowerPoint. Well, not really to the back, but to the end of the PowerPoint, you'll start seeing the different sections of the act, right? So without moving the slide any further, we covered some of the sections last week, right? If you made notes, you can look at it. Remember, the NIBOSH question now is not memory-based, so don't feel bad. If you're looking at your notes, you're doing the right thing, right? If you're looking at the PowerPoint, you're doing the right thing. Because remember, it's an open book exam. You don't have to remember. When I ask you a section, it doesn't mean to say that you have to memorize it, right? It just means that you can look back at the resources that you have. The supposed to be section, right? Six. So these are the sections we looked at last week. Give me a minute to admit two persons, and I'm going to ask you two questions on those sections, right? We have Christine and Brittany coming in. Again, welcome to all those who are joining in. Please remember, as I was saying, you have many different platforms to get your work on. One of the best ones, though, I mean, like many people forget this one, is actually the notes. The notes themselves is a means of getting the information, right? So one of the best ways is just looking at your notes in itself. So in terms of an update with your textbook, you already month rolled over. We had a change of government this week. Was that this week? No, that was last week. That was last week, right? So I
Last
was
week.
able to order your books. I have done my part where that is concerned, right? I placed the order, I paid them. So now it's up to DHL and shipping, right? Once the books come, I will let you know. I'm hoping it comes this week. If it comes this week, or it could come Saturday. When you finish class, so probably before class, if you're in San Fernando, and pick up your textbook, right? So we have done our part where that is concerned there for you. And again, thanks for being patient with that. Remember, it really have nothing to do with me. We had to wait now because I told you we had used out the credit limit, not credit limit, but foreign exchange, that we have a restriction in Trinidad and Tobago here where even if we have money in hand, we cannot spend it, right? We had to wait for the month to roll over for the credit. Is it credit? I'm saying the wrong word, right? For the foreign exchange limit to renew. So we could have made that. And that was the first thing I did. I actually did that a morning before I came to work, right? Probably Monday morning. The first thing I did was, I'm conscious of it. That that you all paid for your book. And we put the book price in this price. I was telling a class I just had just now, the NIBOSH course here, it's still the cheapest. We have always been the cheapest, more than 14, 15 years now. But it's never cheap, right? For those who know money, I don't think 7,500 is cheap. In other schools, only wash is 8,000, 9,000, right in Trinidad here. And even in Guyana, it's more than that. TT, right? TT, it's actually more than that. But I don't think it's cheap. And I mean, you all know me, I've shared a little bit about me before. I don't like to waste money, right? So, that's me anyway. I believe too, folks, I may sound a bit old fashioned with this one, but I believe too, if you get a book, you're supposed to use it, right? Many people get their book and they don't even open the book. They want the book, they want the book, they want the book. Talking from experience here, from classes I've had, they want the book. And when they get the book, they never even open that textbook. Now, that is actually understandable too, because remember, the answers are in the passage. Question for me, anybody? Christine may have been background noise, right? Yeah. So remember, at the same time, the truth is the answers are really not in the book. Truth is the answers is in the passage. When they say comment on what the manager did poorly, the book cannot tell you that. The case study went to the answer. Remember orientation, folks? If you don't remember, orientation is on YouTube. I put all the orientation on YouTube, right? So in case you forget it, go back. That first day we looked at a past paper, we looked at what NEBOSH is, how the questions come, right? But what I say now, if you're like me now, like if I buy a book, I actually bought a book and I have it here now, but it's a self-help book. I have read chapter 1 in it, just to be honest with you. The bad part of this story is that I've had that book for more than a year now. But the point is I'm trying, right? I'm trying. But if me back in school and me back studying, if I had a book, I would have been opening that book anyway, right? So, that's just me anyway, right? And now because I'm so busy, I guess as where I'm at now in terms of, career and profession, I do purchase some books and I don't ever get time to read them, right? That's just my schedule anyway, right? Anyway, folks, could anybody remember? And you don't have to remember, you could look at your notes because at the full exam, it still is an open book exam. You can still use your notes then. So could anybody say, I wouldn't say remember, could anybody say what is section 2 all about? Who is it? Who is it duty on in section 2? Who is the duty holder in section 2 then? Who is responsible for section 2?
The employer.
The employer. Very good, right? Just asking one more question because we have work to do today, right? And plus it's an open book exam. So in a way, you don't really have to study anything. Just use your notes. Next question, right? Who is the duty holder in section 7? Who is section 7 all about? Section 7.
The employees.
Employees, right? Very good. And anybody can say last question. Why did I pick those two sections? Why didn't I pick section 3 or section 4 or section 6? Why did I pick section 2 or section 7 to ask you a question on?
Exam.
Because of past exams. Very good, right? So remember what I told you all. NEBOSH is a lot, right? But the questions is not a lot. You get about 8 questions, but it cannot test everything. So they have what is called trending questions then, like a section 2 question is a trending question. A section 7 is a trending. Section 6 folks have never come. Section 6 have never come for exam, never. Right? Section 4 came once, 1 is not a trend, 1 is like a mistake, right? Section 3, never. Never, right? But most participants, you hope me can get a question in section. I think I showed you all one last week. I think at the end of the class, I opened 2 participants at random. And I think I remember doing it. So it had to be this class because, the other classes are ahead of you all. The other classes started January or started April. So it had to be this class, right? All right, folks. So let's continue these sections. I am going to take off these letters and numbers from here. Here's what I'll do, right? I'm just going to do it right in the corner here. I'm just going to put all the sections here that we're missing. So what is missing on the syllabus is section 8. If you want, you can write it on because you were writing it on last week. If not, just follow the slide. You don't have to write it. It's actually on the slide, right? I just put in it so that you'll see all in one place now. Section 9, section 36, and 37. These are the last 2 sections on the syllabus, right? Let me just go to the slide in case they don't, those of us who want to see it anyway. Right, so section 8, coming up to that. So section 8, I think I may have touched this last week, but I don't think so. I think we stop at 7. So I'm remembering another class that I do have a class in Guyana, kind of similar to you all, right? So section 8 says no person is to interfere or misuse anything that is provided for safety. No person is to misuse or interfere with safety provisions. Section 8 is normally referred to as the horseplay section, even though much of what happens in it is actually not horseplay. but it's more misuse, right? I know horseplay sounds nice, but it's more misuse is what happened under Section 8. What is misuse? Misuse is you are using the wrong kind of drill. You're trying to make it work. Misuse is you have climbed up on the forks of the forklift because the mobile elevated working platform is not available, right? Misuse is you are driving the company vehicle, but you know the tires are smooth, right? Misuse is you are using a drill bit, but you know that drill bit is worn down. That's misuse, right? So all of those are examples of misuse. And they say no person should be doing that. No person. If you watch the heading of this slide, watch who is the no person. The no person is managers, supervisors, and employees. Is everybody there? No person is to misuse or interfere with safety provision, but it normally carries the name the horseplay section, even though I tell you it's not really horseplaying. Like using the wrong drill bit is not really horseplaying, it's more misuse. Using a company van with smooth tires is not really horseplaying, it's just misuse because they didn't change the tires, right? So in reality, you find more examples of misuse rather than horseplaying, right? Ready? You think you have that? If you want, if anybody writing it over, but you have it on the slides, you don't need to write it over. If you're writing it over, I know some of you are making notes. You can just put section 8 as the misuse section or horseplay. Section 9, I'm just using this slider, so I try not to give myself too much of double work, right? Section 9 is a section that the employer should provide PPE for you, and they should not charge you for it. A lot of companies do it in Trinidad. Not a lot of companies may be doing it in Guyana. Exxon and Schlumberger and Gisby and SBM in Guyana, of course, Trinidad here, Proman and all the big companies would provide PPE for you, right? But there are some companies that try to make you pay for it. But that's against the law. Just telling you that. Remember the HSW Act, people? Remember the class from last week? Remember the HSW Act is the Ashakana. If you want, like I said, go back and look back at your notes. When we became independent, became a republic, right? When it was time for us to have a health and safety law, we just took their law. So the OSHAC in Trinidad is the same thing. In fact, folks, if you read it, we didn't even change the line. We didn't change the words. It's still written in that kind of British kind of way now. We didn't change nothing. We just got it through Parliament, and of course, when it got the majority, it became a law, right? But Section 9 says it's the duty of the employer not to charge employees. And what you're not charging them for is anything that is needed for those employees to do their work there, right? Any charge in respect of anything done, right? No employer shall levy or permit to be levied on any employees of his any charge. Don't charge the employees for anything done for the employee to comply with like what the law is saying then, right? Things like PPE. Also in this, if you want to put another one beside in PPE, is also training. Yeah, training. The employer not supposed to charge you for training, right? If your job requires that you become a first aider, if you have to do, God forbid, God forbid, if you have to go in a confined space, but that wasn't part of your original job then, right? They have to provide a training, and many of them do. There's just one downside to that, though. Anybody could think of the downside when the company pay for your training? What does some of the companies do? I did one right last week. Last week, yeah, there's one to keep it. Right? Last week, Friday, before your class Saturday, last week, Friday, like I said, I did a defensive driving training, right? But the company is keeping the certificate, right? I don't know what NIBOSH, if it was a NIBOSH cert, though, I don't know what NIBOSH, I'm not too sure what NIBOSH stand is on that, though. Because they need more certs of valuable kind of certs now, other than a one-day training. But I did IOSH, which is another UK course for a company, and the company kept the certificate. In fact, when I was doing the training, I actually told the company paid for the men and them. It was actually, this is Trinidad, a bunch of guys going offshore. But it was a Norwegian company. Long story short, the Norwegian company wanted the workers to do a UK HSC course. IOSH, as you know, is kind of easier to pass and it's shorter, just 4 days anyway. So we did that. But during the training, here am I talking, am I talking, talking about the laws and everything. And then somebody mentioned that there is a company, the company, the company actually taking it out of their salary, right? But of course that should not be, but to work for that company, that's what they wanted. And then these guys are going offshore. So, I guess the money is good. The money is good anyway, right? All right. I just say that to tell y'all, if anybody here, Ambika, I know some of y'all work now, if anybody here working and you fall into these kind of categories, even in Guyana, right? Guyana, our shack is 1994, sorry, 2004 for them. No, actually 2004 for us, 1994, I think, for Guyana, right? If you're bringing this point up with any employer, please bring it up in a way that, would see you not getting terminated, right? You have your rights, but sometimes it's how you say it, man. Like it could raise it through the chain of command, let them know here what now, the Oshak here, you know, says, that you should be charging us for this. Those of us in Trinidad, the head of OSHA is, of course, a past affiliate of my school now, and always was. You have Kurt Cadet in Trinidad here, and in Guyana, we have Minister Hamilton. He's the head of OSHA in Guyana, right? Both guys are very nice guys. They would pick up your case, right? Minister Hamilton in Guyana, at least my dealings with him was he really does take on safety seriously. The one in Trinidad, good cadet, I know him too well, so I wouldn't say anything about him. Because my thing is more personal rather than professional. Right? Anyway. All right, so we're moving on. But like I said, I mean, as a safety person, you should know those names. Those of us in Trinidad, the head of OSHA, Kurt Cadet, currently, and those of us in Guyana, Minister Hamilton, right, in Guyana. All right, let me try to get this slide to move a bit. So section 36, if you want, I could break this down for you. Section 36 is saying if you as the supervisor, line manager, or health and safety officer fail in your duty, you could pick up a charge. You'll get charged, right? If you want, I could tell you the charge in TT and in Guyanese too, if you want, right? The charge in the UK is this charge in the UK. Oh, the charge in the UK is high for managers. High. Have I ever mentioned charges to you all already? I'm trying to see how much I've covered with you all. Have I ever mentioned fees to you all already? Like a charge for breaking the act?
No, sir.
No? Okay, I'll tell you it now, but I'm also going to tell you the Trinidad figure and the Guyana figure. But when I tell you the Trinidad and Guyana, just ignore it afterwards. Don't quote those figures for exam, because they won't give you the Trinidad or the Guyana figure correct. They'll only give you the UK figure correct, right? So section 36 is saying the supervisors, line managers, and the HSC officers can pick up a charge. And section 36 is saying the same thing. Section 36 is saying the senior managers and directors of a company, by failing in their duty, directed minds can therefore be prosecuted, as well as the company, the corporate body. It is very rare to prosecute under this section, as proof is difficult in the Caribbean. Proof is not difficult in England or the UK, the rest of the UK, right? Not to stir up old wounds, those of us in Trinidad here, but Paria, the death of the four divers, is a classic example then, right? Now, if you wonder why, well, you must know why. if you was paying attention. If you're not paying attention, I'll tell you why, right? So in Trinidad and Tobago and in Guyana, they don't really have too much good enforcement there, right? In fact, in Trinidad, we have actually repealed this part. Like we don't have the offense by directors in Trinidad. So if you wonder how come OSHA didn't do this, how come OSHA didn't do that, how come OSHA didn't lock up this one, whatever, right? The OSHA in Trinidad doesn't extend to directors. They took it out. It only stops at middle managers and supervisors and HSC. I don't know if you got that. Maybe they will change it. But for now, that's how it is, right? The most accountable person then is like a line manager in the Trinidad and Tobago OSHA. The Trinidad and Tobago OSHA does not go to directors and senior managers. Coming out of the Para incident with the death of 4 divers, those of us in Guyana, that was, kind of well publicized anyway. They recommended that we create something like this, like where directors of a company can be prosecuted. But the recommendations are just recommendations. They also recommended something called the corporate manslaughter. If you heard about that, it was all over the papers. It was all about what was being spoken about, corporate manslaughter. But it was just a recommendation. It didn't go anyway, right? Let me give you those figures. I may want to take off section 8 and 9 because those don't really have any questions on them. And let me just shout the figures for you all. In fact, I can probably take off all and I'll just put the comparative figures for you. Now, the one you have to know is on this slide, but it's not today's class. The UK fines, right? You would need to know this one. Well, I mean, hopefully look back at your notes, right? When that time comes, right? So I'll go UK, I'll go Trinidad, and I'll go Guyana. But remember, or I'll do Guyana and Trinidad side by side, right? Remember, these latter figures here is not exam, right? So I'm going to kind of cross this like this, right? This one down here is not exam, right? So for your course to, right, if, please listen to it, right? If what we call OSHA then in England, if that entity was to come around and find the employer in breach of any of the sections, are you all writing this down? Not one of any of the sections, the company would be fined 20,000 pounds. I'm trying to say this the correct way. Per section. Not for breaching the act, but per section. Meaning, if the company did not follow something in section 2, they could pick up a fine of 20,000 pounds. If they didn't follow something, okay, let me try to explain this to you all, right? Let me go down on this one. I feel I need to slow down on this one, right? So could anybody remember something the employer had to do under section 2? And you don't have to remember, you can look back at your notes if you want. Same thing you do for exam, right? Anybody can remember anything the employer had to do in section 2? Most of
Provide a
those
safe system of work.
right, very good, Andre. Okay, so watch it, right? So provide safe plant and safe system of work. I just want one more. Anybody can remember anything else the employer had to do? Same thing in Trinidad, and same thing.
Welfare facilities.
Okay, welfare, very good. I have 3 dash there, so Daryl, you take the easy ones. Let me see if anybody have another one. What's another duty of the employer? Provide, as how I said defensive driving, what does that fall under? The company to provide what for the employees? It starts with a T.
Training.
Training. Okay, good, right? So watch this, right? Watch how it is in England. Right? Watch how it is in England, right? So I wanted to understand that because I feel if I didn't do this, you would have just think it's 20,000 pounds. But that's not what I said. I said it's 20,000 pounds per violation. So if a company was visited by their OSHA and the company did not have this is like a permit. A SSOW is like a permit to work, like hot work, and you don't have a permit, right? So this is a fine of £20,000. If they didn't have proper welfare facilities, right? Maybe they didn't have an eye wash station, maybe the washrooms are kind of broken down. That's another £20,000. And if they didn't provide training, hard work training or confined space training, right? That's another £20,000. The question is this, folks, right? How much is £20,000? How much TT is that? I have a calculator here. So I'll tell you guys how much it is too, right? How much TT is £20,000? Just an average. You don't have to get it correct. You don't have to really calculate now.
I think 200,000, if I
Yeah,
correct.
that's close to 200,000. The exchange rate now is 9, right? The exchange rate to TT. Folks, I work with the guy and he say just now, right? So it's 20,000, but you're multiplying by about 9 right now. It's going up, right? It's going up. Not 2,000, no. £20,000 by 9. That's 180,000 for one fine in England, right? Now, there's a reason why I'm showing you this, because I want to show you the Trinidad figure. The Trinidad figure is 10,000 TT. Now, how is 10,000 TT? If you draw the comparative then, right? Folks, you write it for me, the marker given a better, come to the marker, the marker seem to run away, right? This is 10,000 TT, but if you break everything back down to TT dollars, right? It's 10,000 compared to 180,000 TT. I wonder if you see that. It's 10,000 TT, but if you convert the 20,000 to TT, you get 100,000, 180,000. The point is then, right? The fine, the same thing is in both acts, but the fine in the UK is way more. I don't know what's going on in the market, right? Okay, UK. I'm trying to draw a comparative here for you now. That's supposed to be UK, but the K not coming out. Don't know what's going on with it. Right? If you could write 10,000 and 180,000, that's a big difference. Right? The big difference is that we took their act, but we didn't take the money value equivalent. Right? And that's why people say safety. By the way, let me give you the Guyanese, by the way. Sorry for that. I didn't put the Guyanese. The Guyanese is 45,000 Guyanese dollars. Now, let me tell you how much TT that is for those of us who don't know Guyanese, right? So that's 45,000 Guyanese dollars. That is just 1,400 TT. This is 1,400 TT dollars, about 1,400 TT dollars, right? Even for my Guyanese who are here, could I ask? Could I ask my Guyanese friend to answer the question so that I don't answer it for you? This is supposed to be TT, right? TT. Right? This is it in Guyanese there. So for my Guyana students, I have two. I have Cassandra Ben. I have Cassandra Ben is one, and the other one is Sangita, right? So is that a lot of money for you? This 45,000 Guyanese a lot of money for you?
No.
No, it's not, right? Because in TT, that's just $1,400, right? So folks, you understand what I'm saying, that how safety in the region is not taken seriously. You understand that now? It's like you ever hear people say, I don't know if anybody work here, you ever hear they say OSHA. OSHA is like a bulldog, but the bulldog don't have no teeth, right? So like you're getting bite. Like if OSHA in Trinidad come and give you a fine, you're getting you're getting a fine, but it's not hurting you that much now. Worse yet in Guyana, right? By the way, I've been talking to Minister Hamilton. If you all go on my Facebook page, school Facebook page, you'll see pictures of me and the Guyana Minister of Labor together, right? I have them on my phone too, but that would be, to find that picture on the phone would be a bit difficult. But I know we put it up on the Facebook page, the school Facebook page, right? I know he was working on trying to get this to increase, right? But for those Trinidadians who are here, who may not understand, I had to understand too. I had to see to believe and I had to feel to believe, apparently, right? The Guyana government is a bit, not of the same integrity then, right? And also the Guyana officials is not, if anybody here old like me, and looking good as how you look good, right? You probably remember what Trinidad was in the 80s. In the 80s in Trinidad, safety wasn't very important. If a police stopped you, you could have bribed the police. That is what Guyana culture is right now, right? Just to tell you that. So these things here, a lot of deaths are happening in Trinidad, deaths are happening in Guyana. The company is not really feeling it. You understand? Folks are talking from experience about Matula. I do consulting and I'm telling you, I could call the company names, right? But I wouldn't. I consulted for a company that had a debt in it, more than one, right? More than three. One of those companies didn't even study that fine. When I say study, they didn't even bother with it, right? By the way, they got two fines. So it was 20,000 TT. You know what they did with it? You know what they did with that fine? You know what they did with the ticket? We call it like a notice that. You know what they did with it? They just put it in the manager drawer like nothing. And when time come to pay, they just pay it, right? But what about if it was really not really 10,000 TT? What about if it wasn't really 1,400 TT or 45,000 Guineas? What about if it was really 180,000 TT? Folks, you understand it's the same line. Same line in watch the Guyana OSHAC, TT OSHAC, UK Act, Canada Act, provide safe plan, safe system of work. What's the difference? The difference is the fine. One of it hurting the company, one of it sending a message, the other one, you okay with it, right? I'm telling you another one, and I'll call this company name because I work there, so I think I'm entitled to. The others I consulted for, so they were my clients. I probably shouldn't call their name, right? Massey too, Massey have fines. They would never take it on. They have a legal department pass it to them. Nobody really studying that, right? When directors, when we go for lunch, then sometimes like what you're buying and what you're eating, TT is more than 10,000 TT, right? What you're buying, what the directors and them buying and eating is more than 10,000 TT or more than 310,000 Guineas, right? So why are they going to study a fine like 45,000 Guineas or 10,000 TT? It's not really hurting them. Small companies it would, but the companies I call there wasn't small, right? It was big companies. Big companies, that is, folks, when I was in Massey making $500,000 in half day, probably less than half day. Less than half day, they're making I'm telling you now, I'm telling you, less than half day people, right? Less than half they make $500,000. What is they studying fines like these for, right? Anyway, the one for exam is this one. So you might wonder why I kind of wrote it here for you. There is I don't know if you want to think of this. Think of this now as a financial cost of an accident. If we tie this back in there, right? Remember moral, legal, financial. So you can say yes, a company will have a financial cost, but what about if they get a fine? Right? It is a lot in England. It is a lot in England. Living in England is not easy, just to let you know that. Right? We have a tax in England. You see, we complaining about tax in Trinidad. It's a property tax there, of course, or not. But have a tax called inheritance tax. Inheritance tax. Inheritance tax is that if you leave in when we get old, and we would all get old, and you put your children name on something, you have to pay tax for that. You have to pay tax for they inheriting your property. Living in England is not easy. I always like Trinidad, just to let you know. Just to let you know, right? Living in Trinidad is not that expensive compared to other places, compared to Canada, right? Sometimes the money is good. There are places that the money is good. Trinidad, the money is good. Money could be better, but it have Caribbean countries. Caribbean, some Barbados pay better, right? Of course, the Middle East, and if you do get it in England and you do get a good job, right? The monies are good, right? It's just that it have a lot of taxes out there as well too, right? Folks, that wraps up the different sections of the Act, but of course not the lesson. So that's what I tell you today. We have to look at now something further in the law, right? And I'll need you, if you're not using your phone for the class, we have to use your phone to do something. I'll show you what it is just now, right? So tell me when you're ready. See if you have any questions on the act, by the way. I'll just call back the section. Section 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 36, 37 is on your syllabus. Please remember the other sections do exist. They're just not on your syllabus. Remember, there is a degree level to this. You all are doing level 3. Level 3 is needed to become a safety advisor worldwide. But we do level 4. Hopefully, we see some of you all in that. And we do level 6. We do cover the other sections in the degree program because it's on the syllabus, right? We didn't cover it here. It's not on your syllabus. I did send you your syllabus. You know what we could do? Because today I kind of hit the ground running. Maybe one of the Saturdays I could open the syllabus, let you see it a bit, right? The first document, one of the first things I emailed you all when you came to the class, came to the school, was a brochure and the syllabus. When you were now finding out, when you didn't decide yet what you're going to do, I sent you the brochure and the syllabus, right? Have a look at it. The good news is open book exam questions are much easier than what you think anyway, right? All right, what I'm going to move on to now, you see I came back up with this slide, right? Because remember this summary was at the end. So I came back up to the slide and I'm going to go on to the extension of the law that you have to know as well, right? So that's moral, legal, financial there. We have the extension of the law now right on this slide here, right? So let's get into that. Now I'm thinking if to read to you or explain to you, right? I guess I'll do a mixture of both, right? What I want to do, I want to put this in context though. So see if you could write this for me. It's not much to write. I just want to put it in context, right? So the context of what we're going to look at now is actually not the exam. The context of what we're going to look at right now, the theory piece here coming up, this here, this context here, this is not for the exam. There are no exam questions on this. However, it is for the project, right? However, it is for the project, right? So take a note of this, the extension of the law. The name of the project, we call it NG2 risk assessment. So the context of this now is for NG2 or your risk assessment project. In short, what I'm going to teach you now, if you remember orientation day, the risk assessment is a form. Well, forms, right? And there's a space on the form for you to fill out what I'm going to teach you now, right? In fact, you have to get 3 of them. If you want, I could write them here for you as a summary. I know where you start yet. But what are you going to look at now? If you want, I could tell you. As I was saying, I could explain it to you or read it to you. I figure I'll do a mixture of both, right? So we just looked at the HSW Act, the different sections of the Act. If you want to take this down, it's like a little guide. That's what we're going to do now. So that you don't say, well, what are we doing? Where are we, right? So we just finished the HSW Act, the different sections of it, right? However, what's something, right? In England, in the UK, they don't have just one law. Like we have one law in Trinidad and Guyana have one law too. Well, one law for health and safety, right? Here's what they did in England, right? They could draw this on me. Could you draw this on me? It'll help you understand what it is we're going to do. It will help you understand it, not me, right? So here's what they did in England, right? They were smart. What they did, they created sub-laws. They created a sub-law under this law, right? I tend to call this the Grandfather Act, basically because it's 1974. That doesn't mean it is that old, right? But I tend to call that Act the Grandfather Act, right? And then what they did, they created a lot of daughters then. How much? Too much, right? All the sub-laws do are called regulations. And the regulations in England and the UK, they are also laws. Now, Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana also have regulations. However, some of the regulations are not law. That sounds a bit funny, but that's the way it is, right? So there's the HSW Act, and there are many regulations to support the Act, right? So the question is asked how many, and I want to give you an idea of how many. I said too much, but let me explain what I mean by that, like what I mean by that, right? And you'll see how this ties back into the project, right? So listen to it, right? Listen to it. So how many regulations? The answer is nobody really knows in the UK. What they did do, right? They created a regulation for every hazard that you could think about on the planet. If you want, I can say that again. We follow them in Trinidad here. Guyana follow them across there, right? They created a law then for every hazard it have on the planet. So if you could think of a hazard, including the coronavirus, there's a law for that in England. No other country have a law for the coronavirus. England had a law for the coronavirus in 2020. Yes, the year it came out, 2020. They had a law for the coronavirus, right? Now, some of these regulations are very popular. I'll put some here. As I have 3 dashes here. I could put 5 if you want. I could put more than 5 if you want, right? I'll put about 5, right? When I put that, you'll say, wait, no, but we just follow that here. Yes, yes, follow that here. So I'll start with the easiest one. There's a law for PPE. Where do you think we get that from? Where do you think we talk about workers must have one hard hat? My marker disappeared. That's supposed to be PPE, right? Okay, something weird is happening. So everyone, please listen. The PPE regulation, the year was 1992. The initial year for that is 1992. How do we know about hard hats and coveralls? The Trinidadians invent that? About safety shoes and whatever? We didn't invent that. We invented soca, calypso, steel band, doubles, right? PP regulations 1992, Guyana, egg ball. Did you know that, folks? Do you all know that those of us in Guyana here, right? Do you all know that it is a Guyanese person that composed Trinidad and Tobago national anthem? Do you know that, Cassandra Ben, a Guyanese national is the one that composed Trinidad and Tobago national anthem? Yeah. So yeah, we invented some things. We can't say we didn't invent anything. But we didn't invent the PP regulation. We took it from the British, right? So I'll tell you, how do workers know coverall, Nomex, PP, hard hats? How do workers know that? Because the British was the first. There's a law for PPE, right? I've given you some famous ones. I'm thinking I shouldn't write it that close now because the marker kind of small now, right? Another one, think of a hard one or an easy one. I'll give you an easy one, right? But I'll have to end up with some of the harder ones. There's one for manual handling. Whenever you talk about manual handling, you talk about making a firm grip, bending from your knees, keeping, your back straight. We didn't invent that, right? But it's the manual handling operation regulations. All of these are 1992, right? Manual handling operation regulations. I've given you some examples. And again, I will try to tie it back to your project in a bit, right? Let me just keep going with it, right? Another one we use here, but I may have to call this out for you all. There's something called Lola. Has anybody, if you're working in the industry, have you ever heard about Lola? This is a law that we follow here. Lola, Loler. The year is 1998 though. Anybody ever saw Lola here? No. If you say no, it means you're not working in the companies.
Lifting
Right?
operations and lifting equipment.
Yeah, very good, Andre. Lifting operation, lifting equipment regulation. Any crane you see in Trinidad and Tobago, any lifting equipment you see in Trinidad and Tobago, and you go and watch the tag, you would see Lola, right? Here what? If you're not working in the industry, the next time you're in the mall, the next time you're in a building with an elevator, Trinidad and Guyana are talking to here, right? The next time you're in Princess Hotel or Marriott or Pegasus in Guyana or in Hilton or wherever it is in Trinidad, you're in a complex and you see an elevator, go up to the tag. And folks are giving you a challenge. Go up to the tag. Go to the tag in the elevator and watch it. See what it's certified to. It's certified to a British standard, Lola. Right? Andre said it. I'll say it again, right? Lifting operation, lifting equipment regulation. Worse yet, if you're on a construction site, you're seeing cranes, gantry cranes, Lola. Everything, we're not certifying to Marshall Montano. We're not certifying to local things. We're certifying to Lola. Right? Folks, understand? I want to get in the bigger picture. You'll see the bigger. So there's a little catch here. I'll come into the catch now. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Kosh, if anybody in the offshore industry, you know about this one. Right? This is a law for chemical substances. Also things like ammonia. Trinidad, if you did not know, is second in the world in producing ammonia. That's why we have Proman. That's why we have all these companies here. Right? Kosh, right? Anybody working offshore would know about Kosh. So Kosh, now folks, you don't have to get the meaning of it. And I telling you, but like this is not this tied into your project. I'll show you how it's tying just now. For now, we're trying to create the impression that England have more than one law now. They have the HSW Act, which we have a USH Act, but it went into it more. How much more? Much more. For every hazard, they have a regulation for it. For every hazard you could think about, manual handling, lifting equipment, chemicals, but there's a law for it, there's a sub-law for it. The sub-laws are called regulations, right? Let me tell you what COSH stands for if you want to know, but you don't have to know, I'm just saying it. By the end of today's class, you wouldn't need me to tell you anymore. I'll show you how to define it in a bit, right? COSH stands for the control, C is control of substances, hazardous to health regulation. COSH have had some amendments. So COSH the last year COSH was updated was 2006. You can put any year as a certificate student. They don't really mark cert students for the years, right? I'll say it again. Control of substances hazardous to health regulation. COSH. Mama telling NIBOSH is heavy. Context-wise, not heavy. Exam-wise, it's not so heavy, but it's long. Exam long, right? All right, one more. Let me see if I can give you an easy one. We have PPE, you have manual handling. I can give you something easy like work at height, right? Working at height have a law. Work at height regulation, the year is 2005, amended 2007. Work at height, remember, if you could think of a hazard, there's a law for it. If you could think of a hazard, somebody falling from height, there's a law for it, right? The name of it is the work at height regulations. Work at height regulations. Some internet documents will bring up 2005. Some internet documents will bring up 2007. But really and truly, the work at height regulation was updated 2007, right? You run a search on Google now, you don't know what year they will bring up. Like COSH went through a series of updates, 2002, 2004, 2005, 2006. Anyone is good enough for a certificate student. Those years only become important when you reach the degree level, diploma level, right? Okay, tell me if you understand. Did I create the impression that it have plenty laws out there? I just give you 5, right? Okay, good. So that's actually not what we're here for today, right? We still have to move on. Okay, so what I'm doing, right, folks? I don't know if you see what I'm doing. I'm just teaching you on this slide here. I have all of this on the slide already. Now watch. I have all of this here, right? Watch it. Statute law could be acts of regulation, right? You are a criminal if you commit a crime against the state. If you break one of these things, you are counted as a criminal, right? These things have to go through parliament. None of this is exam. This is like social studies, right? A bill is produced, the bill is read 3 times. Once it gets through, it's going to be signed by the president. No longer the queen. The queen passed away, right? So signed by the King of England, president in Trinidad, president in Guyana. Once the president signs it, it becomes law. And law here, what I try to tell you, is also regulations. If you look at the slide, you'd see here, these here, they are quicker to make, right, than going through the whole parliamentary privilege. There's somebody in England called the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State is like a minister. How we would say Minister of Energy. They say, well, they could say Secretary of State, to be honest with you, because they do say ministers in England as well, right? They could say Secretary of State, they could say minister, but the ministers have the power to make regulations, right? I want to kind of clear something up on this slide here, and I want to do that now. However, the theory for it was a bit further on, right? But as we on this slide, I could tear it, I could clear it up now. Wherever you see HSE here, right? When you see HSE, that is not who you think it is. So when you read this slide, right? In April 2008, the HSC was incorporated into the HSE. Well, who am I talking about? How could something be incorporated into a person? Well, if you want to take a note on this, if you want to go down and I'll show you this slide with it, right? But in England, the HSE is who we would call OSHA, right? They don't say, it's on this slide. Let me write it first and then I'll scroll down and I'll show you, right? The HSE is who we will refer to as OSHA. But in England and the UK, of course, the UK is for, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales, right? In England, they do not say OSHA. They say HSE, Health and Safety Executive, right? If you want, just as good, I'm going to slide a bit. So the HSE does not stand for Health and Safety and Environment Officer, but the HSE stands for Health and Safety Executive. So it's actually a place in England. Well, many places, should I say. I mean, every county have a HSE department. Or should I rephrase that? Every county have a HSE office. In short, let me try to say it again. HSE is OSHA, but they don't say OSHA in the United Kingdom. They say the HSE. It does not stand for Health and Safety and Environment, but it stands for the Health and Safety Executive. The headquarters is in London. I did not find it when I was there. It wasn't on my list to find, to be honest with you. They're located in Southwark Bridge, London. London is huge. London is huge like Trinidad. Of course, it have the famous places, Piccadilly, Soho, around the Buckingham Palace. That's where I was, right? Around the Buckingham Palace. Skyview, right? I did walk through London, but to be honest, I could not remember to see to find this place, right? I wanted to find some places in Soho. Soho have some nice bars. Part of that is diploma as well, right? But it have some bars in Soho. The bars, like the location of the bar was where they found the cure for cholera hundreds of years ago, right? So it has some other interesting things to look at in London, like Buckingham Palace. I actually did see the king, just to let you know. I saw the king crown, I saw the king scepter. It's under guard, you can't take any pictures. So I mean, they will lock up your tail, right? So you cannot take any pictures, but that's the most amount of gold I ever saw in my life. I couldn't believe, right? There was like a chair that I'm sitting on, like what a king would sit on, pure gold, gold scepter, gold crown, right? So like I said, I didn't find where the HSE was because of what I just told you earlier. There was more interesting things to look at in London than looking for the HSE, right? Anyway, the point I was trying to make there is that when you look at this slide, back to this here, when you see then the HSE must consult with all interested parties. They're not talking about a person, they're talking about an entity, they're talking about OSHA. OSHA could make regulations, and if you want to put it simple, OSHA could make regulations, which is true, but they don't say OSHA, they say the HSE, right? So all these regulations here was made by the Health and Safety Executive. This is going to come to a point just now. I'm coming to a point just now, right? But let me go back to this slide and finish off what I wanted to finish off here, right? So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Bear that in mind, keep that in the back of your mind for the next couple of minutes, right? We're coming back to the HSE, right? So here's what they did. The HSE then have the power to make regulations, right? But here's what they did as well. I'll just simplify in this slide now, right? Here's what they did. They know that everyday people don't have time to read the regulations. They know then that the manager in Proman, Atlantic LNG, SIS, whoever you all know, right? The Salcott, Tufco, right? Whoever you all know, South North, whatever, right? They know the managers don't have time to read a whole law. They publish a law. It have a law. They publish the law for whatever you can think about. Not this five alone here, you know. Work at height we have already. Step, trips, and fall. Any hazard you can think about. Noise, vibration, radiation, right? Anything that is a hazard, chemical substances, electricity, fire, it have regulations for it, right? But they know company people, Exxon, don't have time to read a whole law. So what they did, guess what they did? They created a nice brochure, a nice pamphlet that have the information in it. So those brochures and pamphlets, they are sometimes in the form of a book. I would want to say a booklet, right? Those laws here, the HSE created two. So I'm going to split this here. They created two types of booklets in which you could just open the booklet and you can get, and you're going to see some just now, right? You can get the same information there. Like as you open it, it would have duty of the employer under Lola. It would have some nice pictures. You would see one just now, right? And they created two types of those books. You have a book called an ACOP. Folks, if you go down with the slides, you'll see it now. I'm kind of taking it off out of the slide. So if you want to just take this as a summary, you have one of the booklets is called an ACOP, and the other booklet is called an HSG, which stands for Health and Safety Guidances, or an Industrial Guidances. So these INDG, these booklets capture the same information that you have in the law. So a booklet for everyone then. So Lola have an ACOP and an INDG. Kosh have an ACOP or an INDG or an HSG. Work at height have an ACOP because nobody would really open a whole big law to read. If you get a nice brochure on it, a nice pamphlet in it with pictures, right? I have some here now, but I don't have it on my desk, right? So anyway, we'll see one online now, right? So those things then the employer will actually gravitate it, right? So if you have the PowerPoint, you all have my PowerPoint. So let me not give myself additional work. I'll just show you where it is. If you just go down with this slide, you would see. After the regulations, I put I think 6 here. I have five on the screen written. I have 6 on this slide, right? Different types of regulations. But then I went to ACOPS. What is an ACOP? Read with me, right? An ACOP could supplement the acts and regulation. They tell you what the law wants. It is regarded as an extension of the law, right? Who writes it? The same HSE, the same entity, the same government entity, the same OSHA then that wrote the regulation. They wrote a booklet for it. Read this one on me. I'll go quiet with this one, right? I wanted to fill out the blank for me then, right? So guidances contain practical advice from the HSE, usually in the form of what? Say it, usually in the form of?
Denoted.
Okay, denoted, okay, but in the form of books, right? Books. So now I have some real ones. If you ever come to the office, folks, you see these cupboards as be seen here? It have 10 years of books in these cupboards. Probably more than 10 years, 15 years, probably 20 years of books in these cupboards here. I really do want to check them because they may have a lot of, insects to them. But I have some real ones. Now today, you can get them on the HSE website. So the same government entity, right? Let's get back to this now, right? The same government entity, right? What they did, they created a website. And folks, this website is one of your best friends, as long as you're in safety. For exam, for real life, the way to describe this website, I'm going to show it, right? But the way to describe the website is that it is a website. Anything you want to find about safety, you could find it on that website, right? So if you want, I'm gonna try it on my phone, and I want you to follow me if you're not using your phone for class, right? I wonder what to do first. I'm thinking. So do I link it to the project now, or do I just keep going? I think I should link it first. I'm gonna try to link what I just told you here first, because you wouldn't know what we're doing now. You're just thinking I just talking about ACOPS and guidances, right? And regulations, but I'm not. At the top here, we had the focus of today was to finish off the regulations, finish the act, and then to go to the extension of the law. Notice what we see in here. Notice what you see in here, right? Tells you what the law wants. ACOPS are regarded as an extension of the law. So that was the aim today. But we need to tie it in, right? However, I need some space on my slide. So tell me if I finish writing what I have here. I will try to leave this one because we have something more to do with this. But these 5 that I give you here, that was just supplementary now, like complementary regulations, right? Are you all finished with this here? So I could tie in something with the project. I don't have too much of space to write. I want to fit something here, but I need a little bit of space on the left-hand side. Are you all finished with the left-hand side here? Yeah? I have Daryl, I have Andre, Ambika, Vidal, Vidish, Ishwar. Are you all finished? Anybody writing anything here still? Did you all write anything at all? You should have written
Yes, we're
something.
finished.
Yes,
Remember,
sir.
remember,
Yes,
tell
sir.
Ryan.
I
Yeah.
will go through back the recording later because I
Okay,
have a
and
lot of
take it
family
down.
over right now and focus is kind of elsewhere.
Understood. Yes,
Right?
I remember. Yes, I
Yeah.
remember you told me. Okay. All right. So let me take this off a bit. So now what I'm going to do, listen, I'm going to tell you what the project have then. Like, why did we do this, that? I mean, it's on the syllabus, but how is it relevant to you passing? Remember something I told you a day, right? I told you a day, good class or bad class is not important enough. Sorry to say it like that, right? You having a good class or a bad class is not important. What is important is you passing, right? Remember, I can't pass you. Remember, if it wasn't Cipriani, yeah, we have a good class and I pass everybody. When I used to teach UE, yeah, we have a good class and we pass everybody. But remember, this is not that. Remember your paper going to Leicester. British examiners are going to go through your paper, right? My school have a good pass rate. So I need you all to have a good pass rate too, right? We don't do bad at all. We sometimes do better than folks in the UK, right? Anyway, let me come to this quickly. People, so here's what happening, right? On the risk assessment form, give me a minute, as somebody got bumped out, so I had to admit him too. All right, watch my right. On the risk assessment form, right? On the risk assessment form, please look at the right there, sir. There's a space for you to put down 3 regulations. I think I'd mentioned that to you before. I think I mentioned the risk assessment project is 10 hazards, but you have to boil it down to 3. Remember that? The risk assessment project is you're doing 10 hazards, but then you have to talk about 3 now. Like what is like, okay, like what was your first main hazard? Was the second area of concern? Was the third area of concern? So the hazards that you get, you have to get the regulations for them. There's a space for it. You cannot not fill it out, otherwise you'll fail. So there's a space for you to put 3 regulations, so 3 hazards, and there is a part of it called the methodology for you to write about 3 ACOPS or guidances. You can mix it if you want. I don't know what's going on with the marker, but hopefully you'll write it. So the 3 hazards from the table that you'll finish that word for me, right? The marker seems to be, my hand is not even on the keyboard. Watch one of my hand up here in the air. The other one is going for the marker, right? Let me try again now, right? So there's a space on the RA form for it to put, like if you choose noise, you have to go and get the regulation for noise. If you choose manual handling, you have to go and get the regulation for manual handling. And you have to put a quote from that law. There's a space for that on the RA form, right? And there's a part of it called the methodology where you have to put in 3 ACOPS. Well, you can mix them as I was saying. It can be 3 ACOPS or regulations. Sorry, all guidances, right? You can mix them. It's not 3 in each. It's 3 in all. It's not 3 in each. It's 3 in all. INDG. INDG is a little bit more popular, right? So you understand what we did today? As I said, today's class, you know how I was teaching you moral, legal, financial. I told you it had to do with your exam. Today theory now, is still kind of examinable because it's part of your project. Your project going for corrected in England, right? So folks, let's try to go and find them, right? Now I'm going to clean the whole screen now, right? Let's go try to find them. Ishwa, are you using your phone for class? Yes.
Yeah, my son, if you have my laptop right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and you don't have
Yeah.
another phone?
Not currently. Hold on, let me see if I
You
get my
see, for
mom's phone.
me, okay, I would try. Let me see. Would I go
Hold on,
fast on
sir.
the
Let me see if I get my mom's one and I'll come back.
yeah. But I could try. You see, if I go to open another link now with Zoom, if you all know, Zoom uses a lot of data, whatever they use, I'm not sure. But I could try, right? It'll be fast on the phone, but without the phone, it's gonna be a bit longer. Um, Still try to get rid of this marker from here, right? Zoom is a bit thing. You have to do some things, load up some stuff with Zoom before. But let me try. It's worth a try, right? It's worth a try, right? Okay. So folks, I want you to come in with me now, right? You'd have to give me some feedback because I use the computer now. So like sometimes with the phone, I could look at the phone and talk to you at the same time, and I know it's not the same thing, right? I could show it on the phone, but as I using Google itself now, you'll have to work with me, right? So can
Sir,
you
I
tell me
got
if
my
you all are,
sir, excuse. I
yeah?
got my mom's phone, so you could go
Okay,
ahead
not a
and
problem,
make
not a
a call.
problem. But I'll try this way first. I'll try this way first, right? If I see it giving
Okay.
trouble, I'll just go back to the phone, right? Okay, so
All right.
class, can you tell me if you are seeing Google in your background, like the Google homepage?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
follow me. Those of us with your phone, follow. But I will do it here then, right? To make sure that I cover it, right? So what I wanted to type here, I wanted to type in health and safety executive. EXECU. So type it in your phone. I teach it, right? So as I use it, I'm trying to use the proper thing. Type in health and safety executive and press enter. And you'll have to tell me what your view is like. Are you seeing this picture with a lady? She seems like a nurse. She's holding the center of her forehead. The heading on this page is health and safety executive. Are you all seeing that page?
Yes, sir. I'm seeing it.
Okay, are you seeing it on my view? Are you seeing it on
Yes, sir. I
my?
see it as your
Okay, very
I
good.
see
Okay,
it
yes,
as
good.
your
sir.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Well, it
sir.
working good then. It working good then. Okay, good. Right. So this is the health and safety executive page. Let's take a minute and just not a minute. Let's take 10 seconds and look at it a bit. So these are the people that create the documents for us. These are the people that creating the regulations for the world, right? These are the people that created Lola, right? And PPE, and I could call somebody you don't know, like Pure, right? These are the people creating the noise regulation. And folks, this site is free. Once you're in safety, this site is free, right? Okay, watch the page a bit, and I want you to see it have a search bar in it. See if you're seeing that here. It have a search bar, right? You see in the search bar? I'm going to click the search bar now, and you see it comes up like this. So when you want to find a regulation for a hazard, all you have to go and put it here. You just have to put regulation 4. Well, FOR now, regulation 4, and you just put the hazard. So what I want you all to do, beside Darren, because Darren went through this a little bit already, could anybody shout a hazard for me? Because we need something to work with now. We can't find a regulation for nothing. We're find a regulation for a hazard. I'll write it to the top here. Can anybody shout a hazard? Not one we use already. If you want, you could go with not 135. If you want to use 125, it's okay. But I'd prefer you use a fresh one now. Anybody can shout a hazard for me? A hazard is anything with the
Electricity at
potential. Say?
work. Electricity at work.
Okay, very good. Okay, no, but you given us the answer. All right. The hazard would just be electricity. So let's just go with electricity. I advise the class to write this one down if again you have a book. So electricity. Thanks for the hazard, by the way. Just try to fit it up. I'm sure you'll write faster than me, right? But that's because it is Zoom marker, right? So electricity, so what we want to find, and we zoom, I have to keep changing it now to go from the marker to the cursor. That's how zoom does work, right? So what we want to find now the regulation for electricity. Why? I told you why. If you using out of your 10, if you choose electricity for your array project, there's a space for you to put the three hazards and then they put the three laws. Well, not three, but if you choose electricity, you put the law for electricity there. You choose work at height, you put the law for work at height, right? So all you have to do is put here what is the regulation, or in fact, you didn't want to do that. You just put regulation. Remember, this itself is a British site now. So regulations for electricity, and you just press enter, and it's that simple. Right? If you're present before me, because I type in here, I'll look at tell me what you're coming up with, and I want the year too. Well, that's because I'm being miserable, right? And if you got it before me, great. And also, if anybody could confirm if you all are seeing what I am seeing on the screen, because I know Zoom sometimes doesn't pick up what we see as well. What did you all come
Yes,
up
sir.
with?
See your screen, please.
Very good. So did you come up with the same one?
Yeah, correct.
Very good. So I want you to write it down. So under
Yes, sir.
hazard, I wanted to put regulation. Folks, I have to go back and put my marker, to change the marker. But if you could go a little faster than me, I have to move back the cursor and I'm going to put. So the regulation turned out to be the work at height regulation. Sorry, what am I saying? The electricity. I just put it in a short way, right? Electricity at work regulation, right? 1989. And folks, that is the correct regulation, right? 1989. So how hard was that? For the project, right, you have to open it up. No, I'm not opening it up now. I'm not opening this one now. I'm going to open something else for you in a bit though, right? But for the exam, for the project, you have to open up the regulation and you have to find a quote, just like a two-line quote. And you have to put that, there's a space where like, what is the electricity at work regulation? Say to the employer then. 2 lines, 2-3 lines is enough for the quote. By the way, I teach the project to remember not leaving you on your own for the project, right? We teach the project as well. By the way, there are full project recordings on YouTube already. Full. Part 1 is 4 parts of the project. Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. The part with this law here is part 3. Right? All right. If you're happy with that, what I want you to do, let's go and try to find the ACOP now, because remember what I said, for every regulation, they wrote a book for it, right? So let's go find the book now. How to find the book? You get back to the search bar. Faster than me because I have to change my cursor back, right? You press back the search bar. And instead of putting regulation for electricity, you just put ACOPS. There's no need to write it out because this is a UK site. You don't have to write it out for them. This site is in England. I'll show you just now they're located in London. Told you the stories about Buckingham Palace. Right? So I'll kind of ingrain that in your memory, right? So ACOP for electricity, and you press search again, and you want to write it out again because there's a space for it as well on your project, right? So it might not be the first one. I'm trying to see if this is the first one. What you want to see if you find the letters ACOPS. Look at scene 1 down here, ACOPS, right? So in the live we in now, let me see if I could find an actual one. There's a way to tell an ACOP, right? Well, it will have the letters ACOPS in it, right? That's the obvious way. Another way to tell an ACOP is that it's denoted by the letter L, a capital L. So I'm going to have to open some of these because I'm not too sure what these things are. This one is the regulation. This one, they didn't say what it is, right? But we're looking for, okay, well, this one does say it, electricity standards and approved code of practices. So we could probably open this first one here, right? Electricity standards and approved code of practices is the heading. However, I was looking for, I guess these will work. They will take it in England, right? But I was looking for one that have a letter L with it, but they have lots of standards here. Anyone will do, anyone will work for this part of the assessment, right? Yeah, this one have it. They have British standards, BSEN. BSEN stands for British Standards European Norm. So we'll work with that because that is correct. And also our time is also limited, right? So you can take anyone. Anyone is good enough. Anyone is good enough. I'll just go with the first one here if there's anything, right? BS 5266. And we wanted to put a name for it. I don't know if you could write that out for me. Code of practice for emergency lighting. Right? So what I'll put here, but if you could write out a name for me as well, that would be, you want to put a full name then, right? Remember BS stands for British Standard, EN, European Norm. It will work. It's not the best, but that's what you have in the world then, right? There is a document for it, there's a book for it. That's what we're gonna have to work with, right? 5266, part 1. Part 1 to part 10, right? And could you write out this name for me here? Approved code of practice or code of practice for emergency light or emergency lighting. And the one thing to find again, we have to find a guidance, right? So the way to find the guidance is the same way. Tell me if I'm going a little bit too fast. I'll slow down just now. INDG, or you could try the letters HSG. Any one of the guidances are good. If you wonder what's going on, let me just make something clear here, right? These are books that, remember we said that these are books, but it have more than one book there. If you wonder why so much? Well, the answer is it have plenty books in the world, right? But why so much is, let me give you the explanation. The explanation is this, right? Listen to the explanation a bit so you understand why you're seeing so much, right? So remember when you did maths? Anybody remember doing maths in high school? But remember doing maths in high school?
Yes, it sucked.
Okay. Anybody? It sucked. I was a maths teacher, right? So uh, I'll ask you, right? Do you remember the name of the author of your maths book? I'll come into a point with this just now. Remember the name of the author of your maths book in your school? I'll give you a clue. Raymond. Anybody remember a guy called Raymond Tulsi?
Raymond Tulsi.
Yeah, Raymond Tulsi, right? Now here the thing, right? Now the school you went to would have used a different book. In other words, then, those of us in Trinidad, right? I'll relate to Guyana in a bit. Those of us in Trinidad, presentation was using a different maths book, right? Presentation using a different maths book to Astra, right? Astra using a different maths book to the secondary schools. The secondary schools using a different maths book to Presentation College. I don't know too much schools in Guyana, right? But I suppose I know the New Guyana school have a secondary school. Their maths book could be different too, that of School of Nations, and could be different to the secondary schools in Guyana as well. The point is though, watch my bet, right? Watch my bet. The thing is, all the books would have teach you the same thing. All the books would have had fractions, all the books would have had trigonometry, right? Certain books and were approved for certain schools, and then certain schools have certain link to authors, so then they fancy and they favor that book. I wonder if you understand the point I get into. The point I get into is this: it doesn't matter the book you use. The point is, it is a book giving you a guidance on what it is you're studying. You understand this a bit, folks? We are looking for a book on electricity. It have plenty. It doesn't matter the one we use. It is a book for electricity. You understand that? For the NEBOSH project, they only wanted to put one book. One research book now that you went any research. Anyone will do. Folks, understanding? So as a class here today, right? As a class here today, you did not have to write down BS 5266. You could have written down any other number. You'd have still gotten it correct. The maths book is different, but it's still covering the same principles of electricity there, or whatever your hazard is, right? So you will not get it wrong. I want to make this point known. If Daryl have in his project, I just saying, right, an ACOP, and Videsh have another one that's not the same as Daryl own, they will both get it correct, because in the UK, there are many books. As in the world of CXC, there are many English books, there are many mathematics books. In a way, it doesn't matter which one you pick up, all of them have fractions in it. Folks, you understand that? You understand that for you? So when you say, or you do another project and you hear somebody say, well, I got ACOP L108, and somebody said, well, I got ACOP 526. It doesn't matter. Once it is a supplementary book, NIBOSH will give you it correct. I hope you'll write that down. What they will fail you for, though, is leaving the space blank, in that you didn't put a book there, you didn't put a research book there. That's what they will fail you for. But remember, you're not supposed to fail, because remember, folks, you're supposed to give me a draft. And if you give me a draft, I will tell you where you're going right or where you're going wrong, right? So nobody have any reason to fail this course, once you do what you're supposed to do, right? Could we go and find the INDG? We have 3 minutes again. I'm not even sure where my search bar is now. That's what the view is on my screen now. So if you all have yours, could you just go back to the search bar? Just put in it INDG for electricity. You can put HSG for electricity too. All of them, they are just books, right? Sorry, we run out of time, but I could pick it back up here next week. INDG for electricity. Right? Well, this is not the end of this class anyway. Remember, we have to actually do this on the project too. So when we do the project, that's in halfway through the course, right? INDG. So what you're looking for here is the word guide. And the other one is looking for the word coda practice. If you see guide, that's what you're looking here for. You see this one here, watch it. Health and Safety Guidance, HSG publication, right? Anyone will do. But I want to go back to the first one though, right? Anyone will do. The first one I had, electricity safety, and you a brief guide. You can't miss it. And it didn't take that long. Watch it, right? Folks, if you have this space, right, could you write in this space number? The INDG is 231, revision 1. Could you write that out? That's what I meant. Folks, I don't want to change the cursor back. I'm just changing it a marker. But like where you had regulation and then you had ACOP, put under put under INDG 231. And the name of the book is Electrical Safety and You, a Brief Guide. You have to put the name of the book. You have to put the name of the book and the number of the book. Name and number, right? That's what the space is for. So when they practice it, doing the writing from now. Right? Now let's see it. Let's see it, because I tell you it's a book. Next thing is not a book. Let's see it. So we're going to click on it. If you have it, please click on it. Click on it. They say download a free copy. Let's click on it and see if it's a book. You could actually, I have some, I'll tell you, but mine kind of, I have some. I'll try to clean them up for you all a day. Right? So when you come to the office, you can probably see it, right? I have some, but in years, decades. Yeah. So if you watch it, it is a book. You all seen it, watch. This is a web-friendly version of the leaflet. I like the word leaflet, because you know why I like it? Because remember I tell you, these documents are produced by the HSC to help people understand the hazards of electricity, where no manager, including you, don't have any time to read the whole law. But if you don't have time to read the law, you can read the leaflet. Does that make any sense? A manager will quicker pick up this. You will quicker pick up this than read a whole law. You ever download the USH Act and see how much pages it is? You ever print the USH Act? It's thick like that, right? Nobody have time to read a regulation, but they could read a friendly version, and they said a leaflet here. What does it have in it? Remember what I said? Everything is nicely laid out. Watch it. What are the hazards? Oh, by the way, can you all see it? Can you all see my view, or am I just all talking? Yeah, what are the hazards? Assessing the risk. Sometimes it have nice pictures in it, right? I guess all mightn't load on the live. Oh no, I think that's just a summary. So I guess I have to download the whole thing, right? But again, I hope I was able to create the impression today. let me kind of summarize now because it's 4 o'clock, right? That there is an extension of the law in England. The HSW Act is not all. They were smart. They were smart, right? What they did, they created a law for everything. Every hazard have a law. That's what I told you. Every hazard have a law, right? And what they did now, the government, the HSC is the government in England, they created a website. This is free for the world, right? Where you as a student, you as a manager, you as a safety, you as a businessman could go on the site and get free information. It's that easy to get. However, today, though, we related it to the project. We said on the project, you'd have to get 10 hazards. We said that's his orientation. You have to pull out 3. And the 3 that you take, there's a space for them. Once you put it, the next line is to put the law for it. You have to put the law for it next time. Right below the hazard, you have to put the name of the regulation. Right? So finding it was just going to Google, get into the HSC website. The HSC website have a search bar. Whatever you're looking for, I'm going back now. You just click the search bar and you just put whatever you're looking there for. Right? Trinidad and Tobago, we follow the same laws. We were under the British. Guyana followed the same laws. They were under the British. Canada, still under the British. Grenada, still under the British. Right? After stuff, though. That's a wrap, though. Let me see if I can find your register. If you have any questions, you can let me know. I did promise you all to see what happened to last week recording, right? I'll let you know once I look at it, right? I'll let you know what happened to it. And I guess later on tonight, I'll try to post this. Once it's finished converting, how you all are the last class for today, there were 3 other recordings converting on top of this class recording, right? Before I close off, though, did you understand what you have to do? Did you understand the system in England? And then now, how we related that system to your assessment, as to how that pertains to you passing the course? Let me know. Could I ask 1 or 2 questions then? If you all are not brave enough to talk, could I ask 1 or 2 questions then? So, anybody can remember from today class? Just 3 questions. I just asked 3, right? Just 3 questions. You can look at your book too, just to be honest, because the real exam is an open book exam, right? So, anybody remember the fine for breaching the Health and Safety at Work Act in England? What is the value of the fine? How much money would you be charged?
20,000 per fine.
20,000.
Good. Okay, excellent. Okay, good. Excellent.
Like 20,000 per fine.
Per fine, very good. Because they would, yeah, that's a lot, man. You multiply 20,000 by 3 and then multiplied by 9. These people go out of business. And they go out of business. That is the real thing. They go out of business after a fine. Trinidad, they fine you, Guyana, they fine you. You in the restaurant in the night. After you pay the fine, you sit down and you eat it. Right? Real thing I'm telling you there, right? All right. Second question for today, right? This is a yes or no question, right? So does England have just 1 law for health and safety?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Okay, good. The supplementary books that they produce, what is the names of those books? There are 2 types of books that they produce to help out employers and students. What is the name of those books?
One is ACOP.
Very good. And the other one is what?
I
Starts with a G.
INDG.
Right. So remember,
HSG.
the IND stands for industrial, the G stands for guide or guidance. And you have 2 types in the world. You have HSG, health and safety guidance, but INDGs are more popular. You will see that as you do the course anyway, right? Folks, once you know this for life till you do your master's degree. The HSC website is, well, if you're doing your master's degree in safety, right? Till you do your, whatever you do in safety again, this is the website. This is it. It don't have any other. This is it, right? The only thing, if you finish off like your certificate, if anybody is interested, I would advise, if you're in safety, if you're not in safety, don't do it yet. I didn't do it yet either. I studied and I got a job first, right? But if you're in safety here and you finish an NEBOSH cert, when you finish, the only website you want to be familiar with again is the IOSH website. The owners of NEBOSH, they have a membership system that they run. You can join IOSH. What that means, it means that you are a serious professional. You're going to get a card. I have mine. and you are in the thing then, you are in the main body for health and safety. So other than the HSC website, the only site again would be the IOSH website. You would hear people talk to you about, even if you were doing the course anyways, even Cipriani. You finish Cipriani, they tell you join IOSH. But IOSH doesn't recognize Cipriani though. So that's kind of crazy. Anyway. Ambika,
Present, sir.
thanks very much. Do enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Devon,
Present.
again, thanks very much. Cassandra, Ben, Devon, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Cassandra,
Yeah, you
again, do
too.
enjoy the rest there in
Present.
Guyana as well. Yeah, Cassandra, is it raining now by chance? No?
Pardon?
Raining it is it raining in Guyana?
No.
No, no, okay. All right. It was a rainy day in Trinidad here. All right. Okay, Cassandra. Justin, Mirage.
Present.
Thanks, Justin. Do enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Justin, you missed the last class.
Yeah, Roger, I still have to go through the last class on Google Classroom.
Yeah. No problem, no problem, right? Janelle, Jack.
Yeah.
Thanks very much,
Yeah.
Janelle. Okay. Again, do enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Ryan Moore.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Ryan. All the best for the rest of the day, right? Videsh, Arju Singh.
Present.
Thanks, Videsh. All the best as well. Andre Wells, thanks for taking part in class today. Do enjoy the rest
As
of your
always.
Saturday. Yeah,
You too, sir.
good. Emily Gopal, I think Emily is on the online platform, right? We still put them present. Carissa Joseph,
Present, sir.
thanks, Carissa. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
You too.
Sangita across there in Guyana.
Present, sir.
Right, just to let you know, I did meet up with Nikisha. I think Nikisha is back to back to Guyana yesterday evening, right? Chelsea was here. I don't know if she's not. Chelsea, you here? Chelsea?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good, Chelsea. Good, good. All right. Brittany Ramdas. Wayne Ramnat. Thanks, Wayne. Of course, do enjoy the rest of the Saturday, those who are leaving, right?
Yeah,
Brittany
so we need back there,
Modest. Yes, we'll see him just now. Brittany Modest. Vidal Joseph.
Present, sir.
Ishwar. Yeah. Page
I'll
Fortune.
tell Daddy what's your problem.
Present, sir.
Page Fortune. There's a couple of us remaining, right? So we'll be able to do a little bit of disruption. Carol Valdez.
Huh?
One of my good
Tell Daddy
students.
what's your problem.
Carol Valdez. No? Okay, after Carol is Daryl Mangal Singh. Shivan Suklal.
Present, sir.
Thanks, Shivan. Shanika James.
Present, sir.
Yeah, Shanika put it in present, right? Aliyah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here, Aliyah. Aliyah, you're busy today?
Yeah, very.
I know. Rishon. Mark Anthony. Mark. I didn't see him on the live today. Wayne Ramnat. To make call Wayne already. Wayne Ramnat? No. But Wayne Ramnat is here, right? Wayne Ramnat. Christine Rampasad.
Present, sir.
Thanks, Christine. Right? The rest of you all are seeing here. I think I have you all already. I have Shivan, I have Daryl, I have Ishwar, I have Christine already, right?
So,
Right? If
so just
anybody,
a quick,
sure.
just a quick one for you. You could go on some of the classes. You said you could go on YouTube, and we could also go as Google Classroom. You said.
No, you could just go to YouTube. Like if you want to see this recording right now, because remember when we stop recording, right, it doesn't process as
Yeah.
yet. Then when we put it on YouTube, they have to do a copyright search now. But if you want to see
Okay,
this
okay.
class, you could just go to just go to YouTube, put Shadrach Safety Institute and put regulations, ACOPS, and guidances, and you would see a recording already there. Same content. Just different faces. Same teacher, same content. I mean, like your class then, your face will be different to the class I was here before, right? If you view any information, you want to put a comment on it, so I'll know that somebody looked at it. But they give you view and they put your comment will show up on the video. Yes. Yeah.
All right, and the Google
What?
Classroom one is
The Google Classroom has a code. Let me see if the code is on the group. There's a code that we enter. You have to download Google Classroom. The code is on the group. I don't know if you can see it.
okay.
That code,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, if you download Google Classroom and you enter that code, you'll be able to see the recordings as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have either either one you could go at.
Okay, but this one have to be uploaded on Google Classroom, but YouTube
Okay.
have them already. Yeah, YouTube have them
Okay.
already. Yeah, I'm gonna check
Okay,
now
great.
to see what happened to the recording if it's on YouTube and see if I can upload it, and then I'll message you all and let you all know if
Okay.
last week's video or at least where it is anyway. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All the
Okay.
best. Bye.
And
Bye.
and I'll send the person to sort you out.
Somebody still coming?
Yeah. Cause I told them
Okay, I'll be here till about
you're
5.
close
I'll
to
be
5.
yeah. When they come, tell them just come upstairs now. The gate does look like it. There's a side gate, a wide gate. Come through there, come right up, and they can just knock on the door and come in.
There's a gate to the
alright?
left.
Yeah. The gate.
Okay.
Well, if they come, it'll be the gate to the right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a wide gate. It's the only wide gate to tap here. Yeah. All right.
Okay, great. Okay, sir. Okay, thank you
Okay,
very
let me
much.
stop the recording. All the best, everyone. Bye.
Okay.